Hi guys, this is Dormouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome to another Ramblings of Mad People. So we haven't done one of these regular ones for quite a while now. It's
No.
like 6 months.
Yeah, it feels like we've been a little busy with like specific podcasts about certain games and just life
Yeah.
getting in the way.
Just playing stuff and trying to do guides and things instead of podcast stuff has taken a little bit of priority this first half of the year, but we're going to try to get back into this. And so to that effect, I think we're just going to list the stuff that we've played since last November.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start.
You have a list of 17 million things and I have about 10. So
I can list mine first if you want.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, so I played back in December Metro 2033 Redux, Metro Last Light Redux, and The Walking Dead Season 2. Then in January I played the Ezio Collection, and that was it. February I played a fair amount of things. I played the new DLC for Minecraft, so that was on the Xbox One and the 360. The Telltale Back to the Future game, Dragon's Dogma, Sunset Overdrive, and then in March I played Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And then I believe at the end of March I also played Mass Effect Andromeda. Then in April I played Yooka-Laylee, Contrast twice, because I had it on 2 consoles, Firewatch, This War of Mine the Little Ones, and then in May I've played The Witness, Ryse Son of Rome, Lego Marvel's Avengers, Gin Rummy, Hardwood Hearts, and I Am Alive. So not a lot, really.
No, not really a lot of things
not like
at all.
There's 22 games in there.
So for me, I don't think I played anything in December. Not that I can tell. The Skyrim remaster, and finished Dishonored 2 for the channel. And then in January, I finished some DLC for Halo Reach and for Rise of the Tomb Raider. And we finished Gears of War, the original, for me.
Seriously?
Seriously. And then I played the original Resident Evil, the HD remake on the One, and Resident Evil 7, as everyone knows on my channel because it's been posted. And in February I played This War of Mine the Little Ones and Sunset Overdrive and Horizon Zero Dawn. And
I forgot Horizon.
Yeah. In March I played Mass Effect Andromeda. And that was about it. And Horizon, because Horizon was the very end of February and into March, and then Mass Effect Andromeda, and those two things just ate my entire month. And then April was probably just Mass Effect Andromeda again, and a bit of Ryse Son of Rome. Finished that up this May, and also played Prey, and Gin Rummy and Hardwood Hearts. We had a little card game thing going on.
They were on sale.
They were on sale. They were cheap. They were like $1 or
it
$2.
Was like 84p
Yeah.
for Hardwood Hearts.
Yeah. So we were like, oh, we'll play some cards. So we did those. We both did those. And then
the AI destroyed us in both games.
Yeah. I think the AI was worse in Hearts than it was in Rummy. I won fairly often in Rummy.
I didn't do too badly in Rummy, but it was usually my AI partner in Hearts that would screw me over.
Yes. And I'm gonna congratulate myself for once ever. I found the one game that I'm better than you at, and it is Gin Rummy.
Yeah. I blame bad luck.
It's bad luck 100% of the time. Bad luck.
No, and your superior skill. But no, some of that bad luck just played its part when you were out in like
true.
one turn. I was like, really?
That's true.
And then it did that 3 games in a row at one point, and I was like, thanks. Thank you so much. I love you long time.
It just wanted to drill home the point that it was
like,
something. It was finally something
worse.
that I could win. I could win at. It was amazing. Anyway, so I think we're not going to talk really in
don't
detail.
Worry.
About...
We're not going to talk about everything in detail because this will be like 7 hours long.
Yeah. So I think we're just going to hit the highlights. So what is the first thing for you that you wanted to really talk about?
Okay, let's have a look at my list. So, the Ezio Collection, I guess it's the first thing, like, chronologically, that I want to talk about. Effectively, it's just a port, like an HD remade port of the campaigns from Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations without the multiplayer. It did have some of the DLC, because Brotherhood had the Da Vinci Disappearance story DLC, and then Revelations had the wonderful Lost Archives platforming wonder that everyone loves.
I hate that DLC.
It added some interesting parts to the story, but it could have been done in a different way.
Yeah, the mechanics were just horrible. Those first person platforming mechanics with the like, you don't even have a body that you can see at all and no concept of where you are in the space. I don't know. It just felt poorly designed and in the original game. And it was like they took the worst part of the original game and said, let's make a whole DLC of this. So, yeah.
I just, I like the Assassin's Creed series. Assassin's Creed 2 is one of my favourite games. And going back and replaying the others, because I think I've only played Brotherhood once and Revelation once before playing the Ezio Collection, so it was nice to go back and relive those games again, and then kind of cement in my mind which ones I liked more than the others. And control-wise, Assassin's Creed 2 hasn't aged the best out of all of them. I still love the story. It's really good. I think it's one of the best written ones out of all of them. But the mechanics, just... I feel some of the more modern Assassin's Creeds, maybe like Black Flag, was like the pinnacle of the older mechanic games for me. So I was happy for the opportunity to get the achievements again and be able to see, like, in my rankings of Assassin's Creed whether any of them have moved at all, and I think they're all basically the same. So I'm happy with that. I still hate the 100% sync mechanics in Brotherhood and Revelations for the fact that it was based solely on a memory sequence. There was no checkpoints. So if you screwed up, you'd have to go back and start again to get the 100% sync. You couldn't just restart from the checkpoint you were on.
Right,
Well, there wasn't any checkpoints, effectively. It was literally just restart memory. There was no checkpoint select. That is one thing they could have done, is put that in when they ported it over, just to make it a little bit easier. Not that I had too much trouble, because I feel I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I'm a lot better gamer than I was when I first played these games.
Right.
Back in like 2008, I think, is when Brotherhood came out, and 2009 was Revelations. So I still thoroughly enjoyed them. I still think Ezio is the best assassin out of all of the ones that we've seen so far. It may be biased because there are more games with him in than any other group, because since they haven't carried the same protagonist through.
Right.
But I would definitely say that it was worth £40 that I paid for it.
Yeah,
3 games.
That much for 3 complete games that are all good games.
Yeah, and it's like
Can't beat that.
If you want to get into the Assassin's Creed series, I'd say that is a really good place to start.
Good deal.
So, yeah, that's really all I have to say. about Assassin's Creed The Ezio Collection.
Nice. Very good. So, let's see. I guess the first thing that I would talk about in more depth is the Resident Evil HD remake. I thought it was really cool. I hadn't played it before, and so I don't have those nostalgia glasses that I'm looking through. And I think that a lot of times, well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we all have our own biases and whatnot. And I think sometimes it's hard to separate a game that you remember really loving from the standards of today. You know what I mean? And so I think mechanically, I don't know how upgraded the HD remake was from the original. I think the mechanics worked well for what it was. I definitely prefer the mechanics of the current Resident Evils that I've played. And so, like, let's say the most recent one was Revelations 2. I certainly prefer those mechanics to the old mechanics, but I think they work just fine.
Was the first one the one that had the weird camera angles? So it would be like it's just set in a corridor, and then you'd be walking towards the camera, and then it would switch to behind you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so, and there were, I guess, 2 different types of controls that you could use. There was one where you needed to change, like whenever the camera would change, you needed to change your direction that you were pushing on the pad. So if like I'm pushing up to walk forward because I'm walking forward because the camera's behind me, but then it flips to where the camera is toward me, now I need to switch the position of my stick to where I'm looking, and that was the control system that I used for it. I briefly tried the other control system for the speed runs because I was like, oh, well, maybe this other one will be easier because you just continue pushing forward no matter what. But then I found that after I had played it the other way, it was much too difficult for me to try to learn the other way. And so if you start off with that, if you start off with that control system, then it might be easier. But I was like, no, I'm not relearning this whole thing again. Screw it. I can lose the few seconds that it takes when I'm flipping between cameras going, no, turn back. And the camera's flicking back and forth because I'm moving past the point where it switches over and over again.
It sounds like the load zones in Halo, where we're like, no, don't go that way. Oh no, we've reloaded back in again. You know, we're like, it spawns you in the wrong way round, so you end up walking back into the load zone, and then it loads us back into the previous room, and then we try and go forward, and it does it again, and we're just like, okay,
those Halo Combat Evolved load zones,
and then hopefully we can make some progress.
It's like you're going back and forth, and you're like, no, there's a zombie coming to eat me. I have to move. Anyway, so. But I thought that I was going to be fighting the controls a lot more than I actually did. And so I think for the most part, it worked just fine. The story, such that it was fine. And something that I really appreciated about it was just the layout of the mansion and the different rooms, and you needed this key to get in this place, and you needed this particular item to do this thing. And so it was a lot of your standard go around, collect the stuff, figure out which things you need to solve, which puzzles to get into certain rooms and whatnot. And I like that style of game, and so I enjoyed that. It had a pretty good variety of enemies. It had a lot of, like, enlarged versions of scary things, like, you know, large spiders and large snakes and large sharks, and there was no crocodile, but, you know.
Oh, no, maybe that's one of the later ones.
There are definitely big crocodiles in 5, and so... But anyway, so there was this one place where there were both spiders and sharks, 2 of the things that I am afraid of the most in real life. And so I'm like, this place is horrible. But, you know, it was good for the setting of the game. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. liked being able to play as Jill, liked being able to get the whole context of the berry you could have almost fit into a sandwich.
Yeah, the reference in Revelations.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a line that's referenced so often in just
Jill
pop
sandwich,
culture.
Claire sandwich.
Yeah.
Barry just likes sandwiches, doesn't he?
He just likes sandwiches. He likes his ladies in sandwiches. I don't know. Anyway, that comment went in a different direction than I was intending it to go. But
you can interpret it in whatever manner you want.
So it was cool to be able to kind of see the origins of Jill and Chris and Barry and Rebecca. And so that was nice. There was also the piano Moonlight Sonata thing, which I like that piece of music, and I think that it's cool that it's included in several of the Resident Evil iterations, this one being the first one. So all in all, I thought that it was really good. If you enjoyed it in the past, you'll probably enjoy the HD remake. If you didn't ever play it before, I think it's worth taking a look at if you enjoy those types of games and don't mind the fixed camera angles.
Cool.
So
the next game that I played that wasn't with you was Yooka-Laylee, that I want to talk about. Because that one's it's basically like a spiritual successor to the Banjo-Kazooie franchise, because it's some former developers from Rare that originally made the Banjo-Kazooie series before it got taken by Microsoft, I believe. And it is effectively a Banjo-Kazooie clone. So it controls the same, it has the same like dialogue where it's like people going and then they put the subtitles in underneath. The collectibles are very similar, so instead of jiggies you have pages, and instead of notes you have quills, and you have your like different worlds that you go to, and instead of going through like a jigsaw that you build up with jiggy pieces, you go into books that are built up by the number of pages you get, and so on, and you get different abilities and such, so you can like jump higher or glide or fly later in the game, or turn yourself invisible, redirect lasers, eat things.
Eat things?
Eat things, yeah.
My power to eat things.
You gotta get your health back somehow, and you have to eat butterflies, because you're a lizard bat combo. Makes sense. Bats and lizards eat moths and butterflies, so yeah, that was cool. I like the fact that it was like HD, because the graphics on the older Banjo-Kazooie games now are quite dated, so it's nice to see something in that style that's an HD version.
Right.
Really, all I can say is, like, if you've played the Banjo-Kazooie games, it's effectively the same kind of thing, and I don't know in this like day and age whether that works for you or not, with games moving forward, whether you want more from the game or not. I was quite happy because I have the whole nostalgia glasses on, so I'm like, oh, this is so cool, it's like playing the N64 again. One thing I didn't like was the stupid arcade games that they put in. So it'd be like, there was one that was like Flappy Bird, and I was like, really? I've got to play Flappy Bird? Why do people insist on putting these daft little games in my nice 3D world? It's like, no, we've gone 2D. Why have you done this?
Why have you given me a vastly inferior game to play inside of my other game that I bought?
Yeah, pretty much other than the stupid little arcade games. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I got all the collectibles fairly quickly. It was about £30, and for the length of time it took to complete, about 20 hours. I'm not sure if that's a little bit too expensive for me. Like, maybe wait for it to go on sale if you want to get it, because it might, you might complete it a bit too quickly. Because I think there's only 4 major worlds and the hub world, and it's kind of like, it would have been nice to have a few more levels, because I think the original Banjo-Kazooie has at least like 7 or 8. Of about the same size. I did like the worlds as well. The diversity between them was cool. So there's like a a tropical Aztec-y one, and then there's a frozen one. There's one that's in a casino, and what's the last one? I was like space.
Cool.
I was like trying to think.
Did the casino one go do 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 do?
No, because that would have been a cantina.
Yeah. Just casino music, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Whatever.
I can't remember whether the music in the casino was anything like that. I'm like,
yeah.
I have a feeling there was like.
We're gonna get copyright strike for that I just did right there. You know that,
yeah,
right?
you are. Star Wars is going to be like, we own this video now. Oh no, sorry, Disney is going to be like, we own this video now.
Swear to God,
that would be.
The copyright system just sucks all the fun out of life, doesn't it?
It's copy wrong, not copyright.
Copy wrong. You're correct.
But no, I did enjoy playing Yooka-Laylee, and if you enjoy 3D platformers that are very reminiscent of older games, then I would recommend it to you. But if you're looking for something that's more modern, then no.
Very cool. So, next, I guess I'll talk about Resident Evil 7 briefly. I played through this game far too many times trying to do that walkthrough. I mean, I completed it. I fully completed it 3 times. So I played through about 7 or 8 times. And so I was really, really deep in Resident Evil 7 there for a little while. So
we had to get you a snorkel.
I know. I thought it was really good. It is very, very different from other Resident Evil games. And I think not just because it's first person, whereas all of the other ones are third person, but in tone it was different as well. There were a lot of things. It was interesting playing, because I pretty much played back to back the original Resident Evil HD remake and Resident Evil 7. And so it was interesting to see some of the things that were callbacks to the original style of game. So your inventory slots, and then finding backpacks and things to increase your inventory slots, was, I think, reminiscent of the system from earlier games, although I don't think there was a way to increase your inventory in the original, although there was a way to do that in other games in the series.
Cool.
And then just the herbs, and I mean, these are mainstays of the series, but the herbs and then the item boxes that you can put your items in, a box here, and then the box halfway across the world magically appears in there. You know, just things like that were very much Resident Evil, but the style of the enemies and just the feeling of the majority of the game, it felt, and I said this as I was playing through it, it felt a lot more similar to me to something like Silent Hill, where it has more of an atmospheric, supernatural type of feel to the world than a Resident Evil, which is much more science-based, even though it's probably not really science, but it's pseudoscience-based.
It's pseudoscience. It's video game science.
Yeah. It's sci-fi science, so it's more scientific-based, genetic modification and creating these different strains of viruses and things like that. And that's what Resident Evil has always been, and this just did not feel like that. Like the style, the art style, the style of the enemy types that you were fighting was just not similar at all. However, I will say that the last third of the game really brought it back to more of that type of focus on the science and the viruses and things. And so that kind of saved it for me from saying this is not a Resident Evil game that's in any way related to the rest of the universe, to, oh hey, this is kind of related to the rest of the universe, and I see what they were going for with it. So I'll say for a survival horror game, it's quite good.
Yeah, I remember you playing through it, and you got to about 2/3 of the way through, and you were like, I'm not entirely certain how this is going to play into the Resident Evil universe, because it didn't feel like Resident Evil at that point for you. And I was like, I hope it's good. And then when you finished the game, you were like, so it kind of fits in here. And I was like, cool, that makes sense. It's nice that you kind of feel vindicated with playing the game, that it's not just completely different and not a Resident Evil game, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, because at first it was like, I didn't really understand why it was even called Resident Evil, because it just didn't feel related at all to Resident Evil, and it would have been really, really disappointing if they had not done that turn at the end toward wrapping it back in, because
so it would have felt like a game that just had the Resident Evil stamp on it.
Right.
Just it was like brand recognition makes people buy the game, and then it turns out to not be anything like.
Exactly. And instead of creating a different IP, which is what it felt like for the first 2/3 of the game, instead of creating a different IP to just say that this is Resident Evil and whatnot.
But that's good in a sense, because it rejuvenates the franchise. It's like it's different enough, but also got some similarities that it will fit in, but it allows them to work on a different path, or like different ideas that they can now put into the Resident Evil universe, which is cool, because you don't. It's like, I feel with the Assassin's Creed series, it's stagnated a little bit because they're still doing the same ideas over and over again, and it's just kind of like, we need something a bit different, some sort of progression somewhere.
Right, yes. And I think this was definitely them trying to take that turn. I think it was successful for the most part, because I'm pretty sure the game has gotten good reception. But I know that there are probably some fans of the series who are like, this is not what I want. This is not Resident Evil. What is this stuff? Because, I mean, maybe they didn't even play through the whole thing. Maybe they only played the first hour or two and said, this is not Resident Evil. And so I can definitely see that opinion as well.
Cool. Right.
So next you're going to talk about
I was
Firewatch.
just figuring out. Well, Firewatch and Contrast, because they're both quite short games, and Contrast, for both of them, I like the art style. They both have a good story, or at least I felt that they had a good story. I'm not going to say anything too spoilerish about them, because you've not played Contrast yet, and you might play Firewatch at some point. But Contrast, I like the mechanics in the game, the whole shadow world, our world, so you can flit in between the two, and it enables you to get past obstacles or solve certain puzzles by going into the shadow world and then being able to walk up a shadow on a wall and then pop out again and carry on in the real world and pop back in again, and then you get certain abilities later on that enable you to do certain things. So like you can boost, so you can jump within the shadow world and boost across, and then pop back out again, so that you can get across jumps that you wouldn't have been able to get across earlier in the game. And it just felt it was a nice short, well made little game. I think that's really all I have to say about it. And then Firewatch was quite simple mechanics. It's basically just like a walking sim, kind of. Basically, you play as like a fire watchman in I think it's Colorado, but I might be wrong. It's sort of like mountainous area of America during the summer in like the 1970s, and you're playing as a character who's dealing with some issues in his life, so he takes the job to kind of get away from it all. And then it becomes more interesting over time, because you effectively interact with another character called Delilah, who's like your boss in the Firewatch area, and she's like in the next tower over, and you kind of talk to her and get a good rapport going with her, and then you go through the story and find out certain information and stuff that kind of changes things a little bit. So I thought the story for that was cool as well. And I don't know whether they'd make a sequel to either of the two games. I think Contrast would be cool to have a sequel, and the way the story ends, you could effectively have one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure about Firewatch. I think maybe it concluded, but I was happy with both of them. Nice short little games rather than some of the longer slogs we've put in over the years.
Right. Very cool. And the last one that I wanted to talk about that was something that I played that you did not is Prey. So I'm in the middle of recording my 100% guide for that, which hopefully is going to turn out well. It certainly was a long process.
You put a lot of groundwork in.
Create. And so hopefully that's going to turn out well and people will like that. But I don't want to say too many spoiler things, because part of what I think is really good about this game is the story and the world and the kind of world building that they do, and the little stories that you find out about some of the different characters, like minor characters or characters that you don't even meet, like different emails that you'll find on different terminals that are back and forth between a couple of characters, or audio logs of them talking to one another, that kind of really build up the richness of the environment and make it feel like this was a real place with real people that lived there, and now they're all corpses. And so, well, not all of them. But it's basically set on this space station, and you kind of wake up and something has gone horribly wrong. The majority of the crew is dead, and you're trying to figure out what happened and what are these alien things and what you had to do with it, because there's a plot that involves some memory loss, which actually makes sense and helps you kind of get into the story from the perspective of the player not knowing anything about it, but also the character not knowing exactly what's going on too, and trying to figure that out as you are, which is cool. And so beyond that, there are some twists and turns and things that you have to kind of figure out and decide for yourself. And I thought, with that, trying to not spoil anything, I thought the ending was really great. I liked the choice system that was involved in it and how that plays into the end of the game. And I think that it has good replayability because of that, and because of the different abilities and things that you can get. So there's all these human, quote-unquote, human abilities that you can acquire. So things like being able to upgrade your guns more and carry more items and sneak better and stuff like that. And then there's all these alien abilities that you can get too. So the ability to like mimic matter, so you turn yourself into a coffee cup and then kind of creep along the floor to like hide from something, or to get into a small space.
Or just for the fun of it, fire yourself off a roof.
Fire yourself off the roof of a building because achievements. You can create blasts of energy or electricity. You can basically like teleport yourself forward and leave this like phantom version of yourself back behind where you were, so that enemies will be attracted to that instead of you where you are.
I always like those decoy abilities. They just are fun. Yeah.
You can turn dead bodies into like these phantom things that will fight for you. And so it had an interesting mix of powers that you could acquire, which was cool. And I liked the art style. It's definitely like, when you look at the human models, you can definitely tell that it was by Arcane Studios, the same people who did Dishonored. Because the art style and just the features of the characters' faces and stuff reminds me a lot of the characters from Dishonored, but it's a different art style. I think the Prey art style is more realistic looking, whereas Dishonored is a little bit more stylized.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And from what you were saying before, it really has no relation to the original Prey.
Right. Yeah. So one thing about this one that kind of relates to what I was talking about with Resident Evil, I guess, is that I don't know why this is called Prey. Because I don't see, from what I can tell, and I've played through the game probably 3 times now, fully, I have not found any connection to the original Prey. And so I don't know why it's called that other than brand recognition, but if people wanted a sequel to the original Prey, it's in no way like that at all. There's not the Native American aspect to it and the like spirit world thing that they did in the original Prey. There's not... It's just not similar. It's not similar in any way. Like, none of the weapons seemed to be the same that I can remember.
Does it just feel like brand recognition?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's all that it is. And maybe it started off being more a sequel to Prey, and then they just decided to go in a completely different direction with it, but they still called it this. I have really no idea.
Because there's been odd games like that before. I remember Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube. It was supposed to be a completely different game, and it was supposed to be a standalone. And then they just put Star Fox in as the main character, like, towards the end of production, for whatever reason. They were like, oh yeah, we're going to make this a Star Fox game. And it's like, Star Fox is like flying through space in a ship shooting robots down, basically, is what I would consider a Star Fox game. Mm-hmm. There's about 5% of the game is that, and then the rest is action, adventure, platformer stuff. So sometimes it's very strange what developers do.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Prey is a fine a name for it because that word fits, but it's not. But it's not
the Prey
the Prey that you remember. So that's really my only complaint with it is that the title is misleading. And so, other than that, I mean, I think it's great. It's quite a long game, much longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, because I remember you like talking to you, and I was like, "Oh, have you done your first playthrough yet?" And you're like, "No, I think I'm like halfway through." And I was like, "You're playing it for like a week and a half at this point."
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of collectible things which were not. I didn't mind them because they were mostly things like find all the different crew members, which were mostly bodies, and read a bunch of different emails and listen to a bunch of different audio logs. And most of those things, I felt like they enriched the story and the world building, and so it didn't bother me. And also the achievements didn't require 100%. I would say they required like maybe 95% of everything. So if you missed a couple of things, it was okay. But so that lengthened the game, but I mean, you get a lot for your dollar because
that's good.
A full play, like to do everything, a full playthrough is probably 30 hours at least. If you're, slow like me. And so
I would say methodical
and careful, and I don't know, going back and forth and recycling every single item that you can pick up. Hoarding. Well, but you needed that stuff to be able to make ammunition.
I know,
whatnot,
but your MO is definitely hoarder-centric.
Is like, get all the stuff. No, I know. But, I'm like, I need to make more ammunition. Get all the wrenches. Put them through the recycler.
But I'm keeping this one spoon.
Yes. All the spoons all belong to me. So, anyway, I feel like I've talked forever. But
that's fine.
It was good. I really enjoyed it. It had a nice horror-ish feel. I guess not horror feel to it.
Yeah.
And
from what you were describing, it definitely sounds like a horror game to me.
Yeah, it's a horror game. It's a survival horror game. But all 3 things I've talked about are survival horror games. That's
whereas
funny.
I think mine a bit more diverse. There's some platforming.
Yeah, that's funny. It was just that kind of beginning of the year, I guess.
But the point being is you play what you like. So I like my platformers, I like my action adventure games. And you like your
I like
horror
my
games.
survival horror stuff.
I play some survival horror games, but I'm a bit more choosy. Or scared. Easily. Nah, I'm not that bad.
Choosy. He's choosy. So, anyway, I'd say I really enjoyed Prey. Is it the best game ever made? No. But it was good.
Cool. I realise I keep saying cool. Never mind. So,
not cool! The opposite of cool. Hot.
I just remembered something. Yooka-Laylee has 5 main worlds. Because I recorded some footage from the one that I forgot. Which is
nice. Which is probably what's going to be playing in the background of this. So.
That's what I was thinking was, oh yeah, there's the haunted swamp level that I forgot that we'll probably be playing right now. But I have 2 games left that I didn't play with you that I can talk about. I have I Am Alive, which is I was going to say a survival horror, but it's not a survival. It's like just a survival game.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have
survival adventure.
Yeah, it doesn't have the horror as such because there's not zombies or aliens or anything. It's basically, I think it's set in a form of Chicago where there's been, it's like bad seismic activity or dust storms or a bit of both. There's tremors and stuff that go on, and you're effectively looking for your family. And it's told through the perspective of your video camera that you use to make logs about what you've been doing, and you film certain people and such. And I believe it was supposed to be a full release title, but they ended up having to cut funding on it. It was made by Ubisoft, and they made it into an arcade title instead. So it's about 15 hours long, I think. And I think I got it as Games with Gold, so I didn't have to pay for it. But I probably would have paid maybe £5-10 for the game. So the combat system's a little bit interesting in that you have to kind of be savvy about what you're going to do with certain enemies, because you only have a machete and very limited amounts of bullets. And they have a mechanic in the game where you can use either a gun, a pistol, a shotgun, or a bow, and train it on somebody to intimidate them instead of shooting them, so that you can conserve your ammunition, and then you can attack them with a machete in close combat. But you have to be careful if you're in multiple enemy areas, because you can be outflanked. So if you're trying to attack someone, you'll get attacked by their colleague, and you can surprise kill the first person. So what I liked about the game was that you'd go into combat situations and have to really think about who you were going to attack first. Does that person have a gun? Okay, I'm going to need to shoot that guy with a gun, then take his bullet, then shoot that guy, then kick this guy into a fire or off a cliff, and then struggle kill the last guy. And no matter how many times you planned, there'd be 2 or 3 fights that wouldn't go the way you thought they were going to go. So one guy wouldn't go to where you wanted to go, and instead of having being able to just replay checkpoints, you had a set number of replays, and you could get more of them by helping survivors. So it kind of made you want to help people, to scavenge as many items as you could find, because they'd need certain items for certain people, so that you could get replays just in case you were climbing a building, forgot to take your stamina regen item and fell off and died. Then you'd have to restart. But if you say you're at the beginning of an episode, there is an episode select function. So if you died a few times at the beginning and were like, I don't really want to waste my retries, you could just start the episode again. And the episodes weren't massively long, which was good. So that became a tactic, I've died at the beginning, I'll just restart. So I actually quite enjoyed it. I was a bit reluctant to play it at first, because I was I don't know, sometimes certain games I'm like, am I going to enjoy this? Is it going to be fun? And then you get into the game and it's actually this is pretty cool. But sometimes it puts me off with the older 360 games for whatever reason. Like, I kind of feel like I'm done with the 360 at this point, but because a lot of them have become backwards compatible, they're now playable on the One. So that's a nice function. Is like, okay, so this opens up a bunch more 360 games for me to play without having to have my 360 plugged in as well, because I have limited space. So I can really only have 2 consoles plugged in at the same time. So trying to switch between PS4 and Xbox One and 360 is fun. And trying to juggle them. But the way it ended made it feel like they wanted to do more with the game. And it's just a bit sad that they weren't able to make it into a full title or, release a sequel. But I doubt they're going to do that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing it a long time ago, and it really did feel like the areas were supposed to be more, like, bigger and
they
more
just had,
open
like, collapsed
than what they
things
were,
down to block them off. And there was a whole, like, stamina climbing mechanic that was, I guess, different to a lot of games that I've played, in that you'd be climbing up buildings, but you have to keep an eye on your stamina bar, because you'd run out of stamina, and you could get these things called pitons that you could put in the wall to hang on to get your stamina back, but you also had a limited number of those, so you had to be savvy about where you put them. Or you could use some of your stamina regen items, or you could find, like, a halfway ledge that maybe took you a little bit further away from where you were going, but you could stop off there, get your stamina back, and then go back up. But if you ran out of stamina, you could mash the right trigger to keep you hanging on the wall and moving long enough for you to get to the next ledge if it was close by, which I liked, rather than your stamina's gone and now you're dead.
Right, and I think it started using health, right? So if you were, if you continued going, past where your stamina ran out, and you pressed that button to, like, just keep going, it used a little bit of your health.
I don't remember losing health on doing that, but I remember losing health if you dropped too far, like on a ledge, and when you grabbed it, you'd lose health there too. Yeah. So yeah, you probably are right, because I was trying to keep an eye on my health bar and wondering why it kept going down when I hadn't taken damage in fights. So, I've talked about that game a lot more than I actually enjoyed it quite a lot. Sorry, my mic unplugged a little bit, so
it's okay.
A gap.
It's okay. So
and then my next game is The Witness. Is the other one that I played. That one is like, it's like a walking sim puzzle game, effectively. So you're on an island, you come up out of a lift, and then there's different areas you go to, and they all have different sets of puzzles. And I found it equally fun and infuriating at the same time in certain areas. So each area was different in that, like, you would go to one area and it would be all to do with shadows, so you'd have to find, like, a building to block out the sun so you could see the route you need to take in the puzzle scratched into the puzzle itself, and then that would open up an area where you go underground, and there'd be a bunch of different lights that you needed to turn on and off, and to be able to do certain puzzles and then turn them back on to do the next one and such. And as you went through, the puzzles became progressively harder. But I think the only ones I really had trouble with was the sound puzzles. So it was like you had to do waveforms, and I was like, I can't do that. I'm just sat there listening, going, okay, I don't know. So I think at that point I looked up a guide for that section, but pretty much all the other sections I did on my own without too much help, which was cool. To be like, I can do puzzles sometimes. Yes. And then the, like, final area, each area that you got all the puzzles unlocked in would activate a laser, and then the laser would direct itself to the, like, final area. You had to activate all the lasers to open it up, and it was called the mountain, I believe. And then you'd go down into the mountain, and the mountain had bits of each puzzle area in it, so you'd need to, be able to combine the puzzles that you'd sorted through before to be able to get through the mountain and get to the end of the game. And then they had this one achievement that was really, really annoying. And it was to play this particular challenge, which was random every time. And you had to do it before a record player stopped. So you'd activate the record player and then have this damn song going and going and going over and over again every time you attempted it. But you had to listen to it because when it ran out, that was it. You had to go and restart the challenge again. I don't mind a challenge, but I hate random challenges because you can't get into a good rhythm because you can't comprehend like every permutation of every challenge unless you're like some savant that could work out all of them in your head. So I was just happy that I got that done within 4 or 5 hours of playing in that area. But they also had it's like they had, I think it was 4 different sets of puzzles, and then they had a little maze with puzzles in it. And the maze had like video screens on the walls and on the pillars, and there would be 2 puzzles on 2 of the video screens, and you'd have to find which ones they were. But the maze would pop the floor up in different locations every time. So trying to find a route through the maze to get to the screens to be able to do it was infuriating because you go, oh, I can go this way, and then a panel would pop up in front of you, and you'd be like, oh no, I can't. You could work out the route. You could work out the route through the maze by one of the earlier puzzles. It would change, and you'd be able. It would show you where the 2 puzzles were in the maze and the route to get through it. But if you spent too long looking at it, you wouldn't have enough time to get through the maze to get to the final 2 areas. But every time you failed one of the challenges, it reset that challenge, and you have to do the previous one again. So it was like you basically had to do a perfect run.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, I remember hearing you play that, and it sounded like there were moments where it sounded like you were having fun with the game, but then there was a lot of rage.
There was, because I'm not the most patient of people sometimes. When it comes to things being random, and it's like, am I going to have to waste the next X number of days banging my head against this wall in the hope I can get through this damn maze?
Yeah. Doing the same thing over and over is really not ever fun.
Doing the same thing over and over again and hoping to get different results is the definition of insanity, according to Far Cry 3.
According to Far Cry 3.
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
I am a little insane when it comes to achievements, because I want all those completions.
Yep. Completion! No,
I did enjoy The Witness, but it did make me tear my hair out a little bit. And I'm happy it's over.
Yeah. And did it feel a little overpriced, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me about that. It's like £30, I believe. And I got it half price for like 15. There's me trying to fail at maths. I think it might have been $31.99 and I got it for 70 or something like that. But it's far too expensive for what it is.
Yeah.
They said, it'll take you 20 to 25 hours, but that's only because the final challenge takes like 10 hours to complete.
Right, yeah.
So
that sounds really annoying, though.
It was just like the rest of the game had been fine because all of the challenges were the same. So if you got stuck, you could look at a guide, and I will freely admit I did get stuck a couple of times. But random things, it's like Dunwall City Trials. If that was the same things every time, you could plan your route through. But because it randomized everything, it makes it so much more difficult to get those achievements. Hence, it took me a long time to get back into it because I was like, it's just going to be random. I'm going to be throwing hours and hours and hours and hours at it.
Yeah.
And you just have to hope you get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And random luck is a little bit irritating. But if you like puzzle games and aren't too worried about the achievements, then I would say The Witness is good, but overpriced. So I would definitely get it on a sale.
Yeah. Good deal. Let's talk about This War of Mine, The Little Ones.
Ooh, yes.
So, I thought this was great.
So
like
did I.
it's so not my
normal
thing. Well, I feel like there aren't a ton of games that are like this, because I wouldn't call it like Minecraft-y.
I would say it's similar.
It was base building and survival.
It was similar to State of Decay for me.
Okay, cool.
It's like base building, and you have to go and scavenge for stuff, and it can go well or go badly. State of Decay is a bit more random.
Yeah.
In the scavenging aspect.
But yeah, so this was set in a war in
Sarajevo.
Sarajevo.
It's the Yugoslav war in the 90s, where Yugoslavia broke up into Serbia, Bosnia. There's a bunch of different countries, but it was all different sides fighting each other. Croatians fighting Bosnians, fighting Serbs, fighting Kosovans, and war crimes, terrible war crimes occurred.
Yeah. And so that's the lovely uplifting setting that this is set. Yeah. If you want a setting to make you depressed,
this is basically it. And I will and if you want an even more depressed setting, have my first playthrough. Which we'll get to in a little bit.
Right. But yeah, basically you have, and there's different things that you can do with it. So you can set up your own scenario, or you can have a random scenario, and basically you'll have 1 to 4 individuals who you are controlling, and they're taking shelter in this house during the occupation.
Yeah.
And there's bombings going on around, and a bunch of people have left and moved out, and then there's some army folks there sometimes, and
there's raiders.
There's raiders, and
there's other people like you.
And there's other people like you just trying to survive, and then there are, people who are actively, just sort of set up being jerks, trying to hoard all the stuff for themselves. So there's basically 2 things that you do in the game. There's trying to build up your own house and, build stuff there. And so you're building reinforcements to the walls and things so that people can't break in. You're building things like beds, you're cooking, and you're building things that will help you grow food or create items and that kind of stuff. And then there's scavenging. So you do all the building stuff during the day, and then you scavenge at night, right?
Yeah. And then you also have different people with different skills. So, like, you may have a really good cook, so he will be able to use less fuel to cook the food. Or you'll have another character who has a bigger inventory slot, so he can carry a lot more stuff, but he's slow. And they have different perks. So it's like, if you set up your own scenario, you can have the people that you want. And then if you set up the random ones, you get a mixed bag of like, oh, you may want this person or not. So it's kind of like, it depends what you want to go for. If you want a bit more control, set up your own scenario. But if you want random shenanigans, then the basic scenario is the way to go.
Yeah, and another difference between setting up your own scenario and the random one is, in your own scenario, you determine how many days until the occupation is ended, and whether or not there's a winter and how harsh it is, because things change during the winter. Like, you have to get snow for water instead of collecting rainwater, and
you also have to heat the house.
You have to heat the house. Yep. And so so you'll use more fuel and stuff like that. And I think people are more likely to get sick. And so people can get injured, and they will need bandages. People will get sick, and they will need medicine. And people can also become depressed, and they need to talk to other characters or do something for someone else. So if you take them and you give food to a family who's starving or something like that, then that helps them feel better.
Yeah.
So stuff like that helps.
And there's
then,
also the tiredness as well. I
oh,
think
right,
that's the
yeah.
fourth one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't have someone do everything all the time. Like, you want the best scavenger all the time, but he will have to sleep. So you have to rotate people in and out of beds. Like, if you don't have enough for everybody, you make sure you have 2 people sleeping at night, 2 people sleeping during the day. You also want to... You have people with different roles. So, like, you also get children in this one. That's why it's This War of Mine, the Little Ones. So, like, children can't really do a lot. They're like a drain on resources. You can train them to do certain things, which helps, but you very much have them, and then you cannot... They either come with a person that they're tied with, or you can try and get them bonded with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that effectively means that they can share the bed with that person, which frees up another bed, which is cool when you're like early on, because you don't always have the resources to be able to build 4 beds.
Right. And so some people are sleeping on the floor, and so they don't get well rested.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. And so, I don't know, I just thought all the little different mechanics in it made it pretty realistic. There's some combat in it, but you mostly want to avoid that.
Well, it depends who you're playing with, because there's certain characters that can clear areas quite easily if you're clever about it. Mm-hmm. So, like, what was his name? I think there's a guy called Ronan who's got, like, military training, so he's good with guns, and he can silently kill people from behind with a dagger or an axe. So if there's certain areas that are occupied by either raiders or the military, and if you want to get resources from that area, you can either run in and try and get out before they see you, or you can kill them all. I didn't kill them all, but I read certain things online that, like, some people said, oh yeah, I went in there with Ronan and silently killed off everybody, and there's like 10 people.
Yeah.
So you can play it very differently as well. You can play it like go into areas, scavenge, and then leave, or you can go in, scavenge, kill people, take all their stuff as well. But then that will impact you in your psychological state, and it will make you sad the more you do that. So effectively, that will make your like longevity in the game less certain, because if people become depressed and there isn't anybody left to talk to them, then they will kill themselves effectively.
Right.
Which is what happened to my final guy in my first playthrough. So my first guy got shot and died from his wounds, and my second guy froze to death because I didn't have any fuel left, and then my last guy hung himself. So it's fairly brutal, I would say. It's a good game, but it's brutal.
Yeah, and sometimes characters will leave as well. So my first playthrough, one of my characters got shot and died, and then someone else, I think, died somehow. I can't remember how they died, but then my last 2 were a guy and the child, and the child got wounded, and then my last guy just left with them, and so everybody was gone. And so yeah, so I think it may make it so that the kids don't die, but if the kid gets wounded badly enough or is starving or something like that, one of the other characters, maybe if it's someone that's bonded with them or something like that,
I would assume that it's bonded.
They will take them and leave. And so, but I want to say that kid, he came with somebody else. Oh, I think I remember. I think it was the kid, because I only had 3 people in the beginning, and then one died, and then the kid showed up with their grandfather, and then the grandfather died, got wounded and died, and then the other person died as well, or maybe I only had 2 at the beginning, I can't remember. And then the last guy left with the child. And so I don't know whether they were bonded or not. They may have become bonded or something like that, but in any case, it's a bleak it's a bleak world.
Yeah, and there is a lot of resource management too,
Yes.
because you need to try and make sure you've got enough food to feed people. Not necessarily every day, but you need to feed them every couple of days.
Yeah.
And there's like a barter system as well, so you want to try, if you can scavenge and get like jewelry or guns, or alcohol, they tend to sell for a lot. And there's a trader that will randomly turn up at your place that you can trade with, and he has like a randomly generated inventory. Or there's certain locations you can go to, so there's like this big memorial area where there's a bunch of traders that you can go and trade with. There's also a guy at a garage that if you take medical supplies to him, they are worth a lot because he needs them to help his father. Or if you want to, you can kill both of them and nick all of their stuff. Right. That's, how you can play.
And then your person becomes depressed and
then you have to, talk to them and try and...
Right. And it makes them a little bit more... It's funny because it's like risk versus reward type thing where you can kill these people because they're pretty defenseless, some of them.
Yes.
You can... There's one, I think, with just like an old couple or something like that.
Yep, and so you can effectively just go in and steal everything from them. They can't do anything to you.
Yep. Or you could kill them and then take everything. And...
The only time I really killed anybody was going for the depression achievements, and then I still felt terrible doing it.
Right. And so you get a bunch of stuff if you kill people and take their stuff, or if you steal from them, but you run the risk of that character becoming depressed and, at least for a little while, being incapacitated, because if they become depressed or very depressed, broken state, then you can't use them at all.
No.
And they won't be able to go and scavenge or build anything or do much of anything. So.
And then I think if they're the last person, if they're broken, they'll kill themselves, and if they're not the last person, they'll just leave.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when I was trying to go for the achievement, my guy left, but I was able to reload that night, and I guess it's randomly generated whether they leave or not, and I reloaded it enough times that he stayed, and I was able to get him back from broken to sad.
Yeah, and the achievements are a little bit evil as well, because they have things like let somebody get severely wounded and then heal them back up to or almost.
I think it's slightly
wounded.
It's whatever the next to wellness one is, so it's like slightly sick, slightly wounded, sad, and the tired one doesn't matter.
The tired one isn't a thing, but yes, and then there's one for getting a child to broken state and then back up to sad, and so you feel horrible. Really bad because I think I starved the kid, let them get wounded and didn't heal them.
I started the scenario with them bonded to their parent, went out, got the parent killed, then bonded them to another person, got that person killed, and then had the psychologist left to be able to get them back from broken.
Oh my god, that's really awful. But
it's the quickest way of doing it.
Yeah.
There's also we were talking about winter and different phases. There'll be outbreaks of crime. Mm-hmm. Where you'll get raided more, because you'll get raided at night. So what you'll want to do is leave someone on guard duty with a weapon, preferably a gun, and also you can find broken body armor and stuff that you can repair to give to them to build your defense. Make your likelihood of not being raided successfully. Because if they're successful, they'll either wound someone and take items or just take stuff.
Right.
So you want to build your defenses up. So you tend to leave one person on guard duty at night at least, then send one person out scavenging, and then have the other two people sleep. And then when the daytime comes, you also, when you're scavenging, want to make sure you don't go beyond 5, because... Sorry, mic out again. You don't want your scavenger to be out beyond 5 a.m. in the morning, because they'll get stuck getting back, and that'll effectively tie them up for that day, and then they turn back up at the next night, but they'll be they'll be tired because they haven't slept, so they won't be as effective
going out.
And you want to have the 2 people that slept at night to do stuff during the day. So you want to make sure you have the ones that have the good perks for, like, you know, they can build weapons with less equipment, or they produce more plants for food, as the ones during the day. So it's very much juggling which people you want to do which jobs, and then people will get sick, so you have to leave them to rest so they don't die, and then you have this. It's just fun.
Yeah.
Like,
it sounds like it's really not fun, but it is fun.
It's fun trying to juggle everything, and it's like,
right.
Oh, well, I failed, I'll just start another scenario. That the achievements weren't too bad when you can make your own scenario.
Right. And it is nice to get everybody through to the end and then just see how their stories, because it gives you a little tidbit about each person and how their lives changed afterward, if they lived.
And it's all dependent on how good their mental state is at the end. I believe, and like what you've done with them during the story.
Right.
So, like, if you've helped a lot of people, they will have a more positive end to their story, and if you didn't, then they have a negative.
Right. It's kind of like sad. It's like they lived, but they never reconnected with their family, or they moved and they never became like what they wanted to be beforehand. It's almost like they never really moved on. But the ones who you kept, who you didn't have, you know, become horrific murderers and whatever, and kept sort of relatively happy and comfortable and whatnot during the course of the game, it was like they were able to move on with their lives after the war. Yeah.
My last playthrough is my favourite playthrough because I got to day 20 on my last scenario. That's when I put the war to end. Everybody was content, which means that they're above normal mentality, and they were all well fed. And then the day ended and I was like, victory. And then they all had their positive endings.
Nice. Very cool. So, if you like this type of game, I think it's really, really good.
I also love the fact it's random with certain things. I just like random stuff happening.
Yep. In this type of game, you like random stuff happening.
Yeah, because it's fun.
Puzzle games, we do not like random stuff. So.
It's like, is the merchant going to turn up today? Maybe, maybe not. Oh
it's
no,
like,
some kids have turned up and need medicine.
Did my trap catch a rat yet?
Yeah.
Please, we need food.
Am I going to need to put another thing in the water still?
Yep. One of those little filters.
Resource Management 101.
Yep.
Train the kids early so that they can actually be useful.
Right. And when you create your scenario, don't put kids in there if you don't have
Put 4 characters that are adults that have good perks.
Yeah.
And Boris for the win.
Boris. All right. Cool. So moving forward, let's see what else. Sunset Overdrive.
Another really fun game.
Yes. This one, I feel like you gotta play this game if you like sort of open world type games.
It's like a sandbox.
And you have an Xbox One, then you need to play this game because it's great.
It has a really good sense of humour. There's a load of pop culture references, which even if you don't know all of the references, you'll at least get 50% of them.
Yeah, and they're funny. Yeah. You know, it's really that like geek culture and gamer culture and popular culture stuff that I think most gamers probably will at least understand. Like you said, 50% of the references and stuff. So
yeah, and it's like a tongue-in-cheek survival horror game,
right? Because it's not really horror.
Well, it's basically this particular city, Sunset City, has become overrun by these people called the OD, and they basically drunk this. Is it over?
It's like an energy drink.
Yeah, what's it called though?
Overcharge.
Overcharge energy drink, and it's basically like turned them into these overcharged junkies. They do look like some sort of weird abomination zombie creature, but they're not zombies.
Right.
And yeah, you're effectively trying to find a way to escape the city, and that's how the main story goes. There's a bunch of side missions too, which is cool. So you can blast through the game in probably 10-15 hours just doing the main story stuff. And it's a good 30 to 40 at least doing the challenges and the side missions,
side quests,
which is nice.
And so you meet a bunch of different groups of survivors, and you open up more and more of the city as you meet different people and move to the different like islands or sections of the city, which is cool. And then different places have different enemies, and so most of the enemies are those mutant OD people, but then there's also the like government robots that have been sent out to clean up the city. I'm not sure if they're
the government robot, they're like the corporate
robots.
The Overdrive, the company that makes Overdrive, is sent out to clean up the mess.
Right, yeah.
And then there's scavs.
Right, who are basically just raiders.
Yeah, humans that are not OD.
Right, exactly. And so you have those different groups of enemies, and then you have different groups of survivors, and
there's like the geeks. Was it the geeks or the nerds?
Yeah. It was like these like entitled rich kid nerd people.
Yeah.
So there was those, and then they had the like, it was like a Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops.
Kind of, yeah, but they were like Japanese samurai style. Yeah. Then they had the LARPers. I think they may have been my favourite.
Yeah, the LARPers were really funny. And then there were the, what did they call themselves? They were like the Day of the Dead.
Right, yeah, they were like the cheerleaders, but I can't remember what they were called.
Yeah.
But they had like tattooed death masks on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or painted, yeah. They were like Mexican paint, Day of the Dead paint style faces and stuff, but then they were cheerleaders and they had baseball bats and stuff.
And they were looking after a bunch of kids in the hospital. That one kid in the hospital one, you're supposed to think he's terminally ill. He's just got tonsillitis.
Yeah. Oh my god. But the quests were funny. There was a lot of break the fourth wall type humor to it as well. And it was fun. Oh, the respawns. So whenever you die, you never really die. You just respawn.
Dormouse is doing air quotes, by the way.
Yes. And you come back in different ways, so you can come out of the ground like a zombie, or come out of the coffin like a vampire, or get beamed down from an alien spaceship,
or dropped off by the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of some of the other ones.
Wasn't there one where you came out of a phone booth?
Yeah, there's one that you come out of a phone booth, and there's another one where you like come out of an elevator, I believe. Then there's another one where you're like pressed out of this giant lump of something by some like mechanical device, and then you just like reappear out the middle of it.
Yeah, there's one where you get like, there's a van pulls up and then they like throw you out of the van.
Yeah, but it's the OD driving the van.
Yeah.
Throw you out.
Yeah.
Like, you've been questioned by the OD. CIA.
Yeah. But it was funny, and then the mechanics were just the movement. The traversal was so cool. So it was this mix of like grinding, so like basically as though you're a skateboarder, like across. But you have no skateboard, so just grinding down rails and
and like power wires,
wires, yeah,
and corners of
buildings, any stuff like that. Anything that has like an edge to it, you can grind on, and then there's also a bunch of things that you can bounce on. as well. So it was mixing up bouncing with grinding and to
you
try
could
to
wall
move fluidly. And while running, while running too. And so you could just move fluidly throughout the area, which was
and they
very
would
cool.
give you combos that so you'd get these things called amps, which would activate depending on what combo level you were at, and it would like fill up a bar, and then different level amps would fill up depending on what level you were at. So like the low level amps that would like, I don't know, make your melee throw a fireball instead would like activate at level 1, and then there'd be another one that would like, you could spew flames out as you were grinding, and there was another one that would like give you more ammunition or whatever. So it would like, the more useful ones would unlock later. So that was cool. So it gave you an incentive to use the mechanic to help you in like situations. Like a lot of the challenges, you'd need to keep a high multiplier going so that you could do enough damage, kill enough people. Yeah. And talking about killing people, the weapons in that game were fun.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. What were some of your favorite ones? I liked T and Teddy.
The T and Teddy with the amp that turned it into a small nuclear explosion was hilarious.
Yeah, so T and Teddy was this gun that fired basically teddy bears with dynamite attached to them. So it would fire those out and they'd explode. So that was cool.
Dirty Harry, which is like this giant magnum. I liked... Different enemies had different weaknesses, didn't they? So you'd have to have a good selection of weapons to be able to fight them. So there were certain ones that were good against the robots, but then they'd be bad against the OD.
Right.
And then there were certain ones that were good against like the boss level enemies and the robots, but then bad against everything else. So it was a balance of like, well, I like these weapons, but they all do the same job, so I can only really use one of them.
Right.
Or switch them out.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, I liked the turret copters. So there were these little helicopters that held guns that would just, they would float in the air.
I think you could have 3 active at a time of the helicopters.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could probably have more than that active at a time.
because when you fired the 4th one, it would despawn the first one.
Okay.
I found that out to my cost.
Well, it might have been that when you upgraded them, you could have more out at one time.
Okay. Or there was an amp that enabled you to have more than, like, enabled you to have 4 instead.
Yeah, there might have been. I don't remember. But anyway, so you could just put those up in the air. There was also these little acid sprinklers that were these little, like, dudes that sprayed out acid in a circle around them. There were a couple of different like shotgun things.
The first shotgun you get that's like the compensator.
Yeah.
And it's in the shape of something that people may want to compensate for if it's too small.
Right. Yep.
And there was the Captain Ahab harpoon gun. Mm-hmm. I just like the name. It's like Moby Dick reference.
Uh-huh. I never really used that one.
I only ever used it on the robots. Then there was like the boomerang gun or the disc launcher or something that would like bounce into multiple enemies. Murderang, that was the one, because that's the one used against the robots. Then there was like the little like dragon firework launcher.
Yes, that one.
The Happy Dragon or something. It was the something dragon.
It's like 1,000 dragon, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was like Chinese fireworks, basically.
Yeah.
And then there were just a lot of different things, and they were cool. They were just interesting weapon types. There was one that was like
a rage gun that you could fire into a bunch of enemies, and they'd start turning on each other and attacking each other. Mm-hmm. Hairspray gun.
Yeah.
That was like TN Teddy, but better.
Right.
So it was like a bunch of like aerosol cans all like sewn together that you'd like fire into a group of enemies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and then you had some regular things like the AK-47 and shotgun and stuff like that too. So I think it was a good mix of weapons. I liked the nano gun.
The cloud, the nano launcher from
it was from one of the DLCs.
Wrath of the something of the machines.
Yeah, and
the DLCs were good. The
DLCs were very good. And so it just fired a cloud of nanites that just ate basically everything. So that was cool. And then there was also a little base defense aspect to it where you could set up traps and try to defend your base against waves of attacks by different enemies.
Yeah, because you were trying to make new amps that way, and they'd have like a OD cooker, so it would cook the overcharge, the drink,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
in a big vat, and then the OD would attack you. You'd have to defend it, and like I think the better you did, or actually I think it was like there were certain achievements for getting through those without losing
a certain amount of
certain amount of OD. But some of those traps were really cool. So there was ones that were like you jump on them and then they'd like have fire erupt from the ground.
Right, or piranhas. Shoot out of them.
Or electricity. Or you can have the spinning blade trap, and then you could put these little flipper traps further away, and they'd like throw enemies into the blades.
Yep, that was cool too. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was just a fun game. You could do the challenge things co-op, which was cool.
Yeah, the multiplayer. Yeah. It was effectively like base defense.
Mm-hmm, and little challenges and
challenges.
Things. And it would have been cool if the whole thing was co-op.
Yeah, I agree.
But it wasn't. So yeah, we thought it was, but then
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
That's the trouble we've had with some of the more recent co-op games we've tried to play. Is like certain ones we're like, oh yeah, this is going to be co-op, but then when you look into it, it's like you can do side missions in co-op. Like,
right, or it has a separate co-op mode instead of the whole thing. So anyway, Sunset Overdrive, it was super fun. So
yeah, if I could name it as my game of the year, it would probably be second.
Very cool. And last thing that we played most recently together was Ryse Son of Rome. So this is another early title for the Xbox One.
It was a release title.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was quite good.
Yeah. The campaign was good. I enjoyed the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I think we played through it twice because we did like our collectible run the first time and then the legendary difficulty run. But you also have all the upgrades, which helps. Right.
Yep. And so the combat was really based on doing combos. And so you would need, and there was a lot of timing involved, so you would need to time your attacks and your blocks to make sure that you got a good combo without getting hit. Yeah. And then you would build up a meter to be able to do special things, and depending on which god you favored at that moment, they would do different stuff. So one would help you earn more XP, to buy more upgrades, and then one would help you regenerate health. That was Apollo. And then Jupiter helped you build up focus, which was the thing that helped you do like special executions.
Yeah.
Or special attacks, so that you could slow down time or do like a blast away from you and that kind of stuff. And so, and I forget what the other, and Mars, Artemis? Right?
Oh, Mars, yeah. What did I think Artemis for? Artemis and Diana, probably, but yeah. Mars, which gave you more damage, like a damage boost.
Yeah.
Because I think the Mars special attack was like you'd hit the ground and flames would come out. Then that would like damage people. Then the Jupiter one was like a lightning-based one that would stun people. Mm-hmm. The Apollo one was slow time, which I mean you could do a bunch of attacks on someone in a very short period of time. And the Diana one was like a shockwave, which was great in areas where there was a lot of environmental kills because people would get knocked off ledges or into spikes or fires or whatever. It was chaos and it was hilarious and fun.
Yeah. And then there was an execution system, And so if you damaged someone enough, they would get a little skull over their head, and that meant that you could execute them. And so there were a bunch of different executions that you could do depending on where you were positioned. Which, yeah, there were little quick time events where you would do different, stabs and blocks and, chopping off people's arms and tossing them up in the air and slashing their legs off. And some of them were just great. It was brutal, but it was awesomely brutal.
I think that's this war of mine as well. Awesomely brutal.
Awesomely brutal in a completely different way.
Oh yeah, but still awesomely brutal.
Yeah. So I thought the campaign and story of Ryse was pretty good. Yep. I thought that the combat system was really fun, and I really liked the executions. I thought, it never got old to do an execution.
No, it didn't. Because you'd never get the same one. You'd usually never get the same one twice
in a row.
Like the 20 that you could do. And you could also do double executions, which are my favourite thing ever. It's like, well, not favourite thing ever, but favourite thing in Ryse. Because you could get two people down to the point where they had skulls above their heads, and then you'd dual execute them. So you'd have, you'd stab one guy and hold him on your sword, then whack the other guy in the face with your shield, throw the one guy off your sword, kick the other guy up into the air, and then slash him. And it was nice.
Yeah. So it was just cool. And it was very cinematic, I'd say.
Yeah, it was.
So, very, very cool combat system on that. And then
it had its whole separate multiplayer co-op games.
Yep.
And you could play some of them solo, but we basically played the entire thing co-op. And there was a bunch of different... I think there was a bunch of different maps that we got because we got the full deluxe bundle, so we got all the DLC maps and everything. And so there were certain achievements that we went for that you had to play on all the original maps, and then you had to play on certain maps a certain number of times and so on. So we went through, got all of those done, and then effectively just spent the rest of our time playing survival on a map called Dockyard because it was the easiest way to get XP. And one thing I will say to Ryse is thank you for making every XP level exactly the same amount.
Yep.
Level 1 to level 2, 50 XP. Level 205 to 206, 50 XP. They didn't do the Gears of War route or the Assassin's Creed route. I know Assassin's Creed isn't quite so bad, but Gears of War is awful. For level 1 to level 2, 3 XP. Level 200 to level 206, 1 million XP.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a curve. It's some curve where it's an
exponential.
Yeah, it's an exponential curve where if you're trying to get to level 100, you're halfway there at level 85, which makes no sense and makes you want to tear your freaking hair out when you're trying to do it. But they were all 50,000 XP, and so it was a steady grind to get to 200, which was the maximum for the achievements. So that was
the XP would increase your rank, and as you increased rank, you could get better equipment, and you'd buy packs, and you'd get money from playing matches depending on how big a combo you got, and I think how many points you got. And then there was a crowd bonus, so if you killed people in entertaining ways, kicked them into spikes, executed them, set them on fire,
dip their head into a vat of burning oil.
Yeah. That was fun. The first time it happened, and I was like, you can do that? Or, knock the oil over and then kick them into it as well.
Yeah.
And then you'd be able to use the money to buy packs. And the thing I really liked about it was that they had a set number of items that were considered rare, so they're the best items. So they'd be in the gold packs. But once you'd bought all the gold, once you'd got all the rare items in the gold packs, they were you can't buy any more gold packs, that's it, don't worry about it. You've got all the items you need. And I thought that was really a really good touch. We're not going to make you waste money getting duplicates of stuff. We're just going to tell you there isn't any more to be able to get, so you're not going to waste your money.
Well, and you couldn't get duplicates, so it's there were 20 tier 3 items, or like 20 tier 3 boots, and it told you how many out of 20 you got, and you didn't get multiples of the same thing. So if you got another pair of boots, it would be a different one of those 20 boots.
Yeah. And it was like the rare items generally, the higher level, like tier 6, which was the highest you could get, didn't have negatives.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was like XP gain, crowd bonus, health amount, regeneration rate, focus amount, focus gain, focus time, and you could you'd want, depending on what you were playing, to if you were trying to get as much XP as possible, you want to put equipment on that gave you the best XP bonuses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice getting to the end and having ridiculous regeneration rates of 70%. So the game mode that we liked playing was called Survival, and basically your health decreased gradually over time at the start, and then as the time increased, it would go down a lot quicker. So
and you had to kill people in order to regain
health back.
And you got more health back depending on if you got an execution and how well you did during the execution, right?
Yeah, so if you got the timing perfect, you get a legendary execution and it would give you bonus health if you were playing Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I played Apollo, I played under using Apollo as my god, and you used Jupiter as yours, so we'd get a lot of focus, so we could use our abilities a lot, and then we'd get the bonus for the executions to get health back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the farthest we got was 33 minutes, but once you hit 30 minutes, you didn't get any bonuses. So once you got to 5 minutes, it gave you 2,000 XP for getting to 5 minutes, and then when you get to 7, it was 7,500 and so on. And when you got to 30, it would give you 100,000, and then you wouldn't get any more bonuses after that. And 100,000 is 2 ranks. No matter what stage you're at, it's here's 2 ranks. So it paid for us to try and get to 30 minutes.
Right.
And you could also have potions as well. You could carry 2 at a time, and you could have duplicates. So I'd use 2 revive potions, so that if I'm fighting someone on the other side of the arena and you go down, you'd have to get to your teammate in 30 seconds. And if I was I'm never going to be able to get there without dying, you could just pop the potion and it would revive your teammate. Or if you were down, it would revive you. But there was a bunch of different ones. There was one that would make you immune. There was one that would make you so you could kill an enemy in one hit.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that gave health back. So there was a nice diversity.
Yep. So I had a lot of fun with it. I think it was actually better than I imagined it was going to be.
I thought it was a really good game considering that it was a launch title.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really very buggy at all.
Nope. Graphics looked really good.
Yep. The story was good. The story was short, but it wasn't bad.
Right.
And
I think it was about as long as it needed to be. It didn't feel elongated and padded and whatever. So
it was concise, and that worked well for it.
Yeah.
And I did the multiplayer. Well, I helped you and another friend do the multiplayer grind. I think one thing I would have liked is maybe if it was 2 to 4 player co-op.
Yeah.
I think that would have been nice. Been more fun.
Mm-hmm.
But if that was going to overstrain their servers and make it even more laggy than it was, because there was a little bit of lag.
Yeah.
Then that probably was a good thing that they didn't make it have more players. But I think I got to rank 350 by the end of helping grind you up to level 200 and another friend up to level 200, and I wouldn't say I was bored.
Yeah.
It was just fun. Just the executions were fun. It was a good horde mode.
Yeah. Very good. And the only irritating thing was when there were no enemies and you had a really good combo.
And you lost your combo. Because the higher your combo, the more XP you get.
Yep. So, anyway, so that's Ryse. So that's all of our games that we wanted to talk about.
Yep. And there's certain ones I would have talked about, like maybe the DLC for Deus Ex, but you haven't played that yet, and I think it would be better. It's better when we both have the same thing to talk about with each other, that if we're going to play it, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
That we can talk about it.
It does.
Bounce ideas off each other.
So, that's been our last 6 months of gaming, and we're going to try to do these a little bit more regularly now.
Yeah, we're going to try and do them once a month, I think.
Is what we had been doing for a while, and then we have effectively kept doing them about once a month, but it's been more single games or specific topics.
Because we did our like Mass Effect 3 discussions.
Yeah.
We talked about Deus Ex and Dishonored.
Right, yep.
We have a Horizon discussion somewhere.
It posted today.
Yay! We have it somewhere on your channel, then.
Yes. So, yeah, because Horizon coverage just finished, and then our review of it that's, as long as the game itself.
Yes. And then we have another single game discussion planned. So.
Yep. So, in any case, it's been a pretty good 6 months, I would say.
Yeah,
Played a lot of good games, and
I've enjoyed I've enjoyed all of the games I've played.
Mm-hmm.
Some were frustrating at times, but
yep.
I'm more comfortable with gaming now than maybe I was this time last year, because I was aiming for things that really were making me annoyed and a little miserable. So
yeah, just trying to do too much too quickly, and
trying to get through games too quickly and not being able to enjoy them, because I'm like, I must get this amount of gamer score, I must
complete this many things, or
complete this in this amount of time,
right, or get in the top 10 on the leaderboard and whatever.
So I think that portion of my gaming career is done. I'm semi-retired. I mean, I've hit 250,000 gamer score recently. Yeah. So I kind of look at it and go, where do I go from here? Like another 50,000 gamer score. Okay, it's
a drop in the bucket at this point.
Yeah. So I think enjoying games, getting completions, because I enjoy getting completions, and hopefully doing the podcast more regularly will be good.
Yeah. So what are you planning to do during this next month?
I'm hoping to play Earthlock Festival of Magic, which was a Games with Gold game that one of my friends had recommended that I play, because it's an RPG.
Yep.
And then I got Mafia 3 on sale before Christmas, and I meant to play it before now, and for some reason just haven't got around to playing it yet.
Yep.
And Just Cause 3, which we got on sale recently. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll try and play those 3. I'm aiming to play about 3 games per month at this stage.
Yeah. That sounds good. I am probably... It's going to take me a little while to finish recording this Prey guide, so that's going to take probably another week or so. And then I would like to also play Mafia 3. I got mine before Christmas as well, and just haven't had time to do it. So I'm hoping to start that. And then I might try to do a shorter game. I'm not sure. I've been looking at a couple of things that are on my list that are shorter, like Layers of Fear, or the Walking Dead Michonne stuff, something like that. I might play something like that. So we'll just see what the month entails. There's nothing new coming out during June that you are excited about, right? Yeah, me neither.
I don't think so. I haven't seen anything pop up. I think the next game I'm probably going to buy is Shadow War, the sequel to Shadow of Mordor.
Mm-hmm.
Will probably be the next day one purchase for me. So
yeah.
That's August. So I've got a few months to fill before that comes out.
Yep, a couple of months. So we have a couple of months for me to play my entire backlog.
So you're not going to go into work for a couple of months?
Right. I think if I didn't go into work for the rest of the year, I probably couldn't get through my backlog.
No. So I think worrying about your backlog is probably a little pointless at this stage, and just play what you want to play. We'll get completions done when you can. If you require like multiplayer stuff.
Yeah, most of them don't, thankfully. But
there's a few co-op ones, like Watch Dogs 2. We should probably get around to within the next few months.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Maybe we can play that one not next month, but the month after.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. So that's our plans for the next month or so. And
we also have a playthrough of Dark Souls 2 to finish. Co-op wise.
Yeah, we just went back and wanted to play that again. So we're about halfway through.
Yeah, we had connection issues for some reason.
Probably a little more than halfway through. We're at it's not Orlando. Drangleic Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be our co-op game for the next month, I reckon.
Probably. I mean, it just depends on if we can connect. Because I think if we can connect, we'll get a fair bit done pretty quickly. But if we can't connect, then we can't play.
But also
together.
with like how much free time you have to play co-op stuff. So if we're playing like a couple of days a week, it will probably, take us a little while to get through to finish.
It might. We'll see.
Damn connection issues.
Stupid server stuff. Anyway, I hope that all of you guys have been doing well and completing games and having fun. And
I think that's the main thing, is having fun.
Yeah, doing stuff that you want to do and how you want to do it.
What are you looking forward to?
Yeah.
Like, are there any releases in the next couple of months that you guys are looking forward to that we missed?
Right, because I don't really know
Because if they put
anything.
something in there and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that's coming out.
Then you're going to be like, damn it, now I have something new to play.
Well, that's fine. I haven't got a ton of games in my backlog, 15 or less.
Yeah. Right.
So it's nice when there's surprises. And it's also nice when Games with Gold has something I actually want to play.
Right.
And the last few months it's been things that we've already played.
Right. The last few months has really just not had a ton of... It's had a lot of good games, but a lot of them have just been things that I've already played. So, yeah.
We shall see.
Anyway, we shall see. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next one.
Goodbye.